Am I wrong for telling my sister she should have shaved before my engagement party? I, female 27, got engaged recently. We had the engagement party at a restaurant. It was paid by my future mother-in-law. My sister, 22 female, came with my parents. She is the type that lives by the body positivity concept, which is more than okay, but she tends to put me in situations where I find myself having to deal with people's reactions. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. She came to the party wearing a dress above the knee. My future mother-in-law and the other woman were staring at her legs constantly. Mother-in-law then pulled me aside and pointed out my sister's leg hair. I was completely baffled and quite shocked. She said it made her and other women feel uneasy and weirded out. I said I was sorry for how they felt and tried to stay calm, but I was mad from the inside. The woman continued to stare and my sister acted like everything was fine. I honestly felt like she caused disruption to the party. I brought it up with her later and told her about what the guests felt about her unshaved legs. She kept chewing her gum while completely acting like it was nothing. She said my future in-law women need to chill. I told her this was unacceptable and that she should have shaved before coming since it was my event and I had to deal with the looks and disruption from the women. My parents told me to get off her back and leave her alone. Then they left. My mom is now telling me to apologize for upsetting my sister after she came to share my happy moments. I told this to my fiance and he just kept laughing and making comments about us being ridiculous. Am I wrong here? I feel like she disrespected me and my guests. I honestly think this is not a big deal. If guys show their legs and they have hair, there's nothing wrong with it, but when a girl does it, it's considered gross. Explain that to me. Why? Why is that considered gross?
I found out my best friend set me up to get assaulted and robbed. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I'm sending me on Instagram. Growing up, I got bullied a lot and I never had a best friend. After graduating from college, I landed a really good job. I actually started working as a forest ranger and this was my dream job. I love being outside in nature. Like I said, I don't have a lot of friends. I even had to move to a smaller town to be at this job. When I got to this small town, immediately one girl started trying to befriend me. Let's call her Katie. Katie was extremely nice to me. Like almost too nice at the beginning. She was always inviting me to go out and even introduced me to all her friends. I ended up really liking her friend group, which was so nice. A month into living there, weird things started happening. One day I woke up to a knife in my tire. Then a few days later, 2 of my packages were stolen. I decided to install a Ring camera and I told nobody. For the next 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then one night, my Ring camera notifies me that someone is outside my door. The person was wearing a black hoodie, so I couldn't see their face, but I could tell that they were a woman. Part 2 is up. I found out my best friend set me up to get assaulted and robbed. Disclaimer, is not my story time. I said I'm on Instagram. That's when I see a black figure outside my door. Couldn't see exactly who they were, but I could tell it was a woman. I obviously didn't confront them because I didn't know if they had weapons. Instead, I turned on my porch light and they ran away. The next morning, I realized that they were scoping, trying to figure out how they could get in my house. I went to the police and they told me that it was probably just teenagers playing a joke on me. I decided to believe them because I couldn't imagine somebody wanting to rob me. But more weird things started happening. I have my packages stolen at least once a week, so I decided to get a P.O. box instead. Mind you, while all of this is happening, I'm still hanging out with Katie and her friends. She was always calling me her bestie, and we would do everything together. She would even come over to my house and sleep over. I truly thought that she was a good person. One night I go out with Katie and her friends. Katie decided to get belligerently drunk. This is when she started saying things like, "We know you have money. You come from money, don't you?" I decided to go to the bathroom, and when I came back, they were all gone. Part 3 is up. I found out my best friend set me up to get assaulted and robbed. Disclaimer, is not my story time. I said I'm on Instagram. When I come back from the bathroom, I realized they ditched me. By the way, they had given me a ride to the bar. Because there's no Uber at that time in my small town, I ended up having to hitch a ride with some random man. Next day, Katie comes over super apologetic. She even asked me if she could sleep over, so I said yes. The entire time she was at my house, she kept trying to smoke cigarettes outside, and she kept leaving the door unlocked. I finally go to bed, I check that the door is locked, and it was. Then at 2 a.m., I wake up to my Ring alarm notifying me that there's people outside. When I look, there are 4 men standing at my door, and they're yelling at me to open the door. They even said, "Be ready because we're horny." I was petrified. I instantly called the police and told them that they needed to leave, which they did. And I go looking for Katie and she's nowhere to be found. When the cops came, they ended up telling me that Katie had done this to other women, and that the group of men were her cousins. That's when I realized that she was the one stealing all my stuff. They were arrested, but they couldn't keep him there. How am I going to be in the same town as her? I don't think I should have to move. What should I do?
Story time about the girl who left me unconscious in the girls' bathroom. So a little background information. I was pretty young at the time. I was in 7th grade and I was 11 years old. And there was this girl who we're gonna call Jenna. Jenna hated me for absolutely no fucking reason. She would bully me because I had red hair, and she would text me literally every day at the same time, telling me to off myself and how I was weird and how nobody liked me. One day she randomly started being nice to me. She sat with me at lunch and her water bottle was empty, and she asked if I needed mine filled up too. Stupidly, I said yes. Well, she ended up putting drugs in my water bottle. After like 20 minutes, I started feeling sick, so I went to the bathroom, and I was kneeling over the toilet when everything went black. Well, when I didn't come back from the bathroom, my teacher got worried, so she sent security looking for me. They were banging on my stall. Obviously, I was fucking unconscious, so I didn't answer. So then they called the fire department, the police, the ambulance, were all there. Like for part 2 about the girl who left me unconscious in the girls' bathroom. So like I said, the fire department was there, the police, the ambulance. They called the fire department because they couldn't get the door off. And when they removed it, it fell on me. So I was injured and unconscious. And just a little background information on this girl, who, mind you, was literally 11 years old. She had a 3 criminal record and was recently in prison for 5 days, or juvie, whatever the heck you want to call it, because she brought a knife to school and tried to stab some kid who had called her fat the day before. Anyways, back to the story. I wake up 4 days later. My mom's sitting next to me. They put Abby in jail for 13 years. For suspicion of attempted murder, and she was kicked out of school. And now I'm homeschooled and failing all my classes. I now have seizures because of the drugs that she gave me. So yeah.
One summer, I got invited to an extended family reunion at the park, and when I showed up, there was an aunt who I hadn't seen in a really long time, and she ran up to me and gave me a huge hug and put her hands on my shoulders, and then she said, "I am so sorry that I did not make it to your French horn recital." And I was like, that is okay, because I don't play the French horn. And she went, You don't play the French horn? I missed your French horn recital. And I said, no, you're thinking of the red-headed nieces and nephews you have. Those are the musically talented ones. The blonde ones all got into mediocre colleges and cry a lot. And then I walked up to my cousin's new wife, who was just sitting there all defenseless with no buffer or anything. And for some reason, I said, we're so glad you're in the family now. We're hoping you help even out some of the crazy. And she said, oh no, I don't think this family's crazy at all. But then, of course, by the end of the night, one of the cousins started screaming at one of the aunts, and it turned into this whole huge fight. The aunt she was screaming with wasn't her mother, and she went and she was like, I don't have to take this. And she got in her car to try to leave, and then aunt was blocking the car and put her hands on the windshield and was like, you can't leave. And then cousins like backing, she's like trying to wiggle the car out without killing said aunt, and then she escapes, and aunt jumps into her car to do a car chase and chase the cousin because she had decided the fight wasn't over. And I was still sitting next to my cousin's wife when this happened, so she leaned over to me and she said, maybe your family's just like a tiny bit crazy. And then I decided to get into my car to leave, and everybody said, oh, leaving so soon? And I was like, I checked all the boxes for coming to a family reunion. I got free food, check. I got a free show, check. I disappointed the family by not being a music prodigy, check. My freshman year of college, I was walking down a hallway towards one of my classes, and a friend who I hadn't spoken to in a few weeks walked confidently towards me, and he said, Kate, how is this relationship between us supposed to work out if you never talk to me? And I said, relationship? What relationship? We barely speak. And he said, exactly. Let's get together this weekend and fix that. And I was like, okay. And we got together and we hung out, and it was great. He's married to someone else now. It's fine. But a few years later, I was at a college party and I tried to use his line. I just blurted it out. I didn't think it through. You should think these things through in case they go badly, because it went badly, and a hallway, I realized, is a great place to do it because you can easily run away. Also, everybody around you is passing you because they have classes to get to. Nobody's focused on what's happening. I was at a party. I was sitting on a couch. My hot friend Liam walks in. Liam and I had flirted a little bit, but we hadn't spoken in a couple of weeks. And I said very loudly, Liam, how is this relationship between us supposed to work out if you never talk to me? And he said the same thing I said. He said, relationship? What relationship? We barely speak. And at this moment, I realized everyone in the room was staring at me. Everybody was focused on me and what I was going to say next. And I got nervous and I choked and I went, I know, that's stupid. I was just being stupid. I'm stupid. That was stupid. And then my brain was like, that was embarrassing. You need to flee the scene now. But I couldn't just run away because we were a billion kids packed into this tiny little stupid college-priced apartment. And so I had to swim upstream through all these people. Like, excuse me, I'm leaving. No, I'm not leaving because of the Liam thing. I'm leaving because I got invited to another party. Alrighty, okay, I just got the text now. This has nothing to do with me making a pass at Liam and it not going well.
Am I the asshole for calling my fiance selfish for refusing to let my dad walk me down the aisle? My fiance and I have been together for over 2 years. My family consists of just my dad and my older sister, and my dad has always been a single parent, devoting his life for me and my sister. I love my dad and we have the best relationship ever. However, him and my fiance do not get along. For example, one time my fiance suggested my dad sell his truck and my dad got offended. The truck belonged to my grandfather and he doesn't have the money to get it fixed. Another example was when my fiance got mad at my dad at a party for talking about his struggle after my mom's death. He accused my dad of collecting sympathy points. Now on to the most recent disagreement.